Hello, Mishpacha. It's Courtney, America's Jewish mother, and I am back for a Friday Reads video check-in. I finished, I think, 4 books this week, and all of those I finished before the end of June, so they are all included in my June wrap-up video that I posted on Wednesday, I think. If you want to check that out. I am currently reading 4 books. This is unprecedented, y'all. I usually never read more than 2 or 3 books at a time, and I'm reading 4 books right now. But anyway, so I will tell you about each of those. So I'm still doing my buddy read of Henry James's Portrait of a Lady with my friend Taylor from graduate school. I am currently over 260 pages into this, so I think it's around 40% or so through. Some intrigue has just occurred, so I'm very curious to see where the story will go with that. This book centers around Isabel Archer, who is an independent, strongly independent American woman who comes to visit a cousin and aunt of hers in England, and she has experienced, she's pretty young, she's like 23, I think. And she's already had 2 marriage proposals so far in this book, and she has turned them both down and basically says she does not plan to get married because she is independent and she values her independence. But like I said, some intrigue with the plot has just occurred. There is a devious plot afoot, so I am curious to see how that will work itself out. So still reading and enjoying that. I will say I do think Taylor's enjoying this a bit more than I am, and I think I'm enjoying the buddy read part of it probably more than the book, although I do like this book when there is actual dialogue happening between the characters. I think it's pretty witty and charming. Then I still do not love James's narrative style when there are just pages and pages of narrative that aren't really doing anything necessarily to advance the plot, and I think I've said this before, James is a sort of self-aware narrator, and I wish that he would stop doing that and just let the characters continue to have their witty and charming conversations. That part I like, so still reading that. I just started the other day my buddy read of Anita Diamant's The Red Tent with Lindsay of Lindsay's Book Life. This is a retelling of the biblical story of Dinah. Dinah is a fairly minor character in the Bible, and pretty much all we know about her is that she is raped, and then there is some sort of vengeance enacted by her brothers because of this. So thus far in the book, we're only about 50 pages in so far. Dinah is telling us about her mothers. So her mother, Leah, was the sister of Rachel and also the sister of Bilhah and Zilpah, all of whom were married to Jacob because it's biblical times. Polygamy was very common, so Jacob married all 4 of the sisters. So far we have heard about how that went down, and there's already been some subversion of things that have been said in the Bible, sort of like backstories or other parts of the story that aren't mentioned. Because again, you know, the Bible, text of the Bible was written a very long time ago by dudes, you know, so women's stories are not often centered in it. So I like that Anita Diamant has done this very sort of feminist retelling of classic biblical stories by centering the women's stories and their voices. So again, thus far we have heard we've heard a lot about Leah and Rachel especially, and a little bit about Zilpah and Bilhah, but we're coming up to Dinah's actual part of the story, so I'm excited to see where that will go. I am also currently rereading Toni Morrison's Beloved. This was not originally on my July TBR, but I decided to add it in, number one, because I needed to reread it before fall anyway, because I'm teaching it in one of my fall classes, and also I'm part of this project that the English department at my school is doing called the Beloved Project, where they're doing events in the fall centered around this novel, and they encourage you to teach it in as many of your classes as you can fit it in. And the other reason I picked this up to reread it now as opposed to a little bit closer to fall semester is because the librarian at my campus reached out to me and wants to meet with me to talk about this before she has a meeting with I don't know, other of her colleagues about this book. So I think she just wanted to kind of check in and chat about it. So I wanted to reread it before we have that meeting, which is next week. So yeah, this is great. Also, I have to say, I have seen people who are in the Toni Morrison reading group talk about this book a lot lately, because I think it was the book that they read for June. And you know, I was a little bit like, oh yeah, Beloved, it's so good. And if you saw my June wrap up, you know that at the end of June I had a couple of reads that I was not a real big fan of. So another good reason to pick this up was because I knew this would be a very good read. And right now I am about 140 pages into this. So in case you're one of the few remaining people on the planet who has not read this book, number one, what are you doing with your life? Get a copy immediately and read it. Just kidding, sort of, but not really. No, but in case you have not read this for some reason, this is the story of Setha, who was formerly enslaved, and her daughter Denver, and they live in Ohio in a house that is haunted. It said, this is not a spoiler, you find that out at the very beginning of the book. It's haunted by a baby ghost, one of Setha's children who had previously died and now haunts the house. Pretty much at the beginning of the novel, Setha and Denver are visited by Paul D., who is someone that Setha knew when she was still enslaved. They were both enslaved in the same place and location, and then they sort of rekindle. Well, not rekindle, they really hadn't had a relationship before, but they kindle a relationship, let's say. A relationship sparks. And yeah, and then all of a sudden, this strange woman who's about 20 years old, who no one knows anything about, whose name is Beloved, shows up, and things just sort of take off from there. And I won't say anything else about it, except that, number one, if you've not read this book, again, what are you doing with your life? Go read it immediately. And number two, I feel like this is definitely going to be a 5-star read, if for nothing else alone than Baby Suggs's sermon out in the woods in part 1, which she ends by saying, wow, okay, sorry, that took me a lot longer to find than I thought. So this should be a 5-star read just for Baby Suggs' sermon in the woods alone, where she says at the end, more than your life-holding womb and your life-giving private parts, hear me now, love your heart, for this is the prize. All the feels, y'all. So anyway, so I'm currently rereading and very much enjoying Toni Morrison's Beloved, and the 4th book that I just started reading last night is one that was on my July TBR, and this is as part of my summer school readathon that Doris at Aldi Books is hosting. I will link that down below in case you're unaware of this. But this is Michio Kaku's book, Physics of the Impossible. This is a nonfiction book. Michio Kaku is a physicist, and this book basically details a number of science fiction tropes and ideas in books and TV shows and movies, and how actually possible he thinks that they are based on the known laws of physics. So there are 3 categories of impossibilities that he breaks things down into. So the class 1 impossibilities are things that don't violate the known laws of physics and are probably going to be achievable in some form within the next century or so. So those include things like force fields and invisibility and telepathy. The second class of impossibilities are things that would definitely sort of change our understanding of known laws of physics to a certain extent, and might be achievable, but are not achievable anytime soon, but might be achievable, you know, within like 1,000 years or something. And then the last category of things, which actually covers the fewest things, by the way, are things that would just completely violate the known laws of physics as we understand them. And there are things he actually considers to be impossible. So I'm not very far into this so far. I've only read the prologue and the first chapter on force fields. And it's fascinating so far how many scientists have made breakthrough discoveries because they read about something in a book or saw something about it on TV or in a movie and were like, I'm gonna go do that. And then they did. So that's interesting so far. So those are the books that I have currently been reading. By the way, since this is on the shorter side, since I'm not, you know, summing up or wrapping up any books that I finished this week, I thought I would include at the end a little about 3-minute vlog of Charlene at the park yesterday. So my mom and I take her to a park nearby every day for a walk. So there is some footage of that at the end for you to enjoy if you would like. And yeah, otherwise I hope everyone has been doing good reading. Let me know if you have read any of the books that I've mentioned. Let me know what you're reading and enjoying lately. I hope everyone is staying healthy and well. And until next time, would it kill you to call you mother? Even though we go on a walk every day, Char is always this level of excited to go. Listen to that. My goodness. Okay, we're on our way to the park, and Char is very excited, aren't you, Char? Yeah, oh my goodness, what a good girl. Char is very excited for our daily state-approved walk. Okay, come on, Char. Char likes to drink her water out of puddles rather than clean water at the house because apparently the puddle water is tastier than fresh water. Only the best for her. Come here, Char. Come here. This trail that we walk on is right by the Tar River. Here's a fun fact about North Carolina that I'm remembering from North Carolina history classes in middle school. So North Carolina is called the Tar Heel State, and the reason why it's called that is because during the Revolutionary War there was some battle that was fought where a lot of the soldiers retreated, but it was said that the North Carolina soldiers stayed put like they had tar on their heels. And that is why we are called the Tar Heel State. The more you know. There's a, bridge on this trail that goes over, I think this is called Goose Creek, or as we call them in this part of the country, the Crick. So at the start of this part of the trail is a falls that runs past the old Rocky Mount Mill village. And this trail that we come out and walk Char on every day is about 1.3 or 1.4 miles. And, you know, it's interesting to look at the falls, especially after it's rained a good bit. You can see that the river is higher than it normally would be. And it actually flooded here a week or two ago, maybe about 2 weeks ago now, and the whole, almost the whole park was underwater, so we couldn't come over here for quite a while. But yeah, nature.